It was the kind of view you'd put on a postcard. Sunset folding into the ocean, breeze soft like breath, waves crashing below the cliffside restaurant. Inside, behind the glass, my entire family sat around a long white linen table, laughing, drinking, smiling for photos. 37 of them, all invited, all except me. I sat alone outside on the terrace, a single table pushed to the edge, as if the staff hadn't known what to do with me. I ordered a scotch, the one my sister used to gift me every Christmas, before she stopped calling. I sipped it slow, like I had nowhere else to be. I didn't. A young waiter with slicked-back hair and a tight smile came over. "Would you like to see the menu, sir?" he asked. I nodded, flipping through the pages like I didn't already know what I wanted. As he turned to leave, I added, "One more thing. That group in the private room. I'd like to cover their bill. All of it." He blinked. "You know them?" Better than I should. I didn't smile. "Don't tell them. Not until I'm gone." He hesitated, looked past me to the glass, then back. "Yes, sir. My name is Ethan. I'm the oldest of 4, and until 5 months ago, I ran the family trust. Not the business, that's my uncle's empire, but the money behind it. I managed the properties, the investments, the tax shelters. I turned millions into hundreds of millions, while the others played boardroom. My father, Richard Mercer, is a man who believes in loyalty until it inconveniences him. My siblings, Logan, Avery, and Jules, believe in money, but not in the work that earns it. I believed in keeping it all together, until the day they held a vote. I wasn't invited. The next morning, a lawyer I'd never met handed me a termination letter. "The board has decided to move in a new direction," it read. I called my father. No answer. Logan sent me a voice memo. "It's nothing personal, Ethan. We just needed someone more aligned with the current vision." I'd built that vision. I'd protected it through 2 market crashes. I'd paid their debts in silence, covered their divorces, cleaned up their messes. I was the architect. Now I was the ghost. I should have seen it coming. The signs were there. The rushed meetings I was left out of. The audit Avery insisted on. The sudden silence from Jules, who used to call me every Sunday. It wasn't betrayal in the heat of a moment. It was slow, strategic, quiet. Like termites hollowing out the foundation until the house collapsed. I didn't fight back. Not then. I packed my office into 5 boxes and left without a word. That was January. Now it was July, my father's 70th birthday. The family reunion, they called it. Held at his favorite place, Ocean Crest. They'd booked the private room, sent out invitations to cousins I hadn't seen in a decade. I got nothing, not even a forwarded text. I found out from the venue manager, the same man I'd tipped $500 once to cater Logan's engagement party last minute. "You're not on the list," he said when I called to reserve. "But we have space on the terrace." "Book it," I said. "I'll bring my own candle." I wore a simple black suit, no tie. I arrived 30 minutes early. Watched the guests trickle in through the main doors. Laughter, hugs, the click of heels and cufflinks. I saw Avery lean in and kiss my father's cheek. Logan held his toddler up to wave at the staff. Jules brought a date I didn't recognize. My chair scraped against the floor as I sat down. The waiter brought bread and water. I watched through the glass like I was seeing my own life from the outside. That's exactly what it felt like. Removed, exiled, forgotten. Except I remembered everything. The birthdays I organized, the investments I saved, the legacy I built that now bought their champagne. The waiter returned with my food, simple roasted salmon. "Is everything all right, sir?" he asked quietly. I nodded. "Perfect." Behind him, I saw my father raise a glass. A toast. I couldn't hear the words, but I saw the expressions. Proud, warm, united, like we'd never shared the same blood. My hands didn't shake. My eyes didn't water. I'd already grieved. What I hadn't done, what I came to do tonight, was finish the chapter. I called the waiter back. "Have the manager bring me the check," I said. "Add a 25% tip, and bring me a pen." He paused. "Right away." I took the bill, signed it, and then I wrote something on the back, folded it, slipped it into an envelope I had tucked into my jacket pocket. "When they ask for the check," I said, "give them this, and say it's from the man they didn't see outside." He looked at me, curious, hesitant, but professional. "Yes, sir." I stood, smoothed my jacket. The scotch was gone. The plate was clean. The sun had dipped lower. I walked away slowly, deliberately, past the parking lot, up the hill that overlooked the restaurant. I turned back once. Through the glass, I saw them, clinking glasses, laughing. My father stood at the head of the table, basking in it. 10 minutes later, I watched a waiter step into the room, holding a black billfold in one hand and the envelope in the other. The envelope wasn't long. 4 lines, handwritten, ink pressed with just enough pressure to be felt through the paper. "Dinner's on me. Consider it repayment for everything you forgot. Ethan." I never signed my name in that house. They called me the fixer, the vault, the boring one. They forgot the name. But tonight, the name signed the check. I watched from the hill, out of view but close enough. My father took the envelope from the waiter, confused at first. He opened it slowly. Read. His expression didn't crack. He was too well trained for that. But the way he held the paper after, like it burned. Logan leaned over to read it too. He smirked. I knew that smirk. Jules turned, scanning the terrace, then looked down. Avery said something, and the whole table shifted tone, like someone had spilled wine. Then silence. Just for a few seconds. But silence inside that room was rare. I walked away before they could react more. I didn't need to see their faces longer. I already knew what was coming. It started that night. A message from my father, unread. Then one from Jules. "You should have come inside. It wasn't like that." Logan didn't message. He never did the dirty work. I turned off my phone and tossed it into the drawer next to my watch. I sat alone in my apartment, lights off, air still, and felt something close to satisfaction. Not joy, not revenge, just the weight of knowing they finally looked out the window and realized I was still there. I didn't pay for their dinner out of generosity. I paid to prove I could, because power, real power, isn't loud. It's silent. It signs the check and walks away. The next morning, I opened the family trust folder. Not their version. Mine. The one they never knew existed. I'd been preparing this for years, not out of malice, but out of habit. I kept duplicates of every filing, every questionable distribution, every property flip they'd done without full board oversight. I knew about the shell companies Logan ran through Dubai, the marketing expenses Avery redirected into her husband's failing startup. Jules, she'd kept her hands clean, but she signed off on too much she never read. I wasn't planning to expose it, not yet. I just wanted it to be ready. I'd built the structure that made all their sins invisible. And if they ever decided to forget that again, I'd remind them in ways they couldn't laugh off over champagne. A week passed. No more messages. Then, silence broke with a knock on my door. It was Avery. No warning, no call. Just her on the other side of the peephole, wearing a designer coat and the expression of someone rehearsing humility. I opened it. "You have 3 minutes," I said. Ethan, she exhaled, can we not do this like it's war? Then maybe you shouldn't have fired your general before battle. She flinched. Dad didn't want you excluded. It was Logan's push. He thinks differently. He thinks recklessly. I cut her off. And you backed it. With a vote. Don't pretend you didn't. She didn't deny it. We made a mistake. It's been chaotic since you left. There's things missing, information you didn't leave behind. I left everything you earned access to. We can't track the Westfall estate valuation. Because Logan illegally split the asset across 3 shell buyers. It's not in the system. I kept it offline to protect him. From himself. Her eyes widened. She didn't know. I continued. You want the files, Avery? You want the estate back in order? It costs. What do you want? I stepped closer. I want none of you to ever lie to yourselves again and think I needed your approval. I made the empire work while you played legacy. She looked down. If we brought you back, not as trust manager, but as family. I'm not for sale, I said quietly. But you're welcome to buy me dinner sometime. I recommend Ocean Crest. She almost laughed. Almost. She left without another word. That night, I got a call from someone I hadn't spoken to in 5 years. My Uncle David. He was the founder, the man who started the first investment fund before my father took over. He'd gone silent after a falling out with the family years ago, but I'd stayed in contact. Quietly. He never liked Logan, never trusted Avery. Thought Jules was sweet but naive. But me? He always called me the backbone. Ethan, he said over the phone, I heard what they did. I also heard the trust is bleeding cash since you left. You got a minute? I listened. He made an offer. Come work with me, he said. Build something that isn't tied to their drama. I've got capital. You've got the spine. Let them burn what you built. I'll help you start over and burn brighter. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I stood by the window and watched the skyline flicker. Rebuilding sounded good, but not out of spite. I didn't want to run. I wanted to stand still and let them feel the absence they created. I told him I'd think on it. That weekend, I flew out of state. Quietly. No updates. No Instagram story. Just me and a small storage unit outside Chicago. Inside, boxes of records, paper trails, documents they thought were deleted. My insurance policy. I reviewed the most sensitive pieces. Not to use. Just to remember. Just to feel control again. On the flight back, I thought about the next move. I had no intention of going public, but I did want one thing, to remind them who kept the walls standing, and what happens when the foundation disappears. Before I continue, if you're still watching and you've ever felt what it's like to be cut off by your own blood, to be used and forgotten, take a second to subscribe. I've got more stories coming, and trust me, they don't end where you think they will, because this one's just getting started. 2 weeks later, the cracks finally reached the surface. It started with a story in a quiet finance blog, a single paragraph. Sources suggest irregularities in Mercer Family Trust accounting tied to overseas asset transfers and internal restructuring. No names, no scandal, just a whisper. That was all it took. My phone buzzed 5 times in 10 minutes. Avery, Jules, then Logan, then the family's legal counsel, then again Logan. I didn't answer. I knew what they'd say, knew how their voices would shake with that polished panic, the kind that's practiced to sound calm. But inside, I knew they were scrambling. You don't build empires on silence and secrecy without a plan for when it unravels. Problem was, they'd fired the one man who kept the stitches tight. On Tuesday, I walked into a marble lobby off Fifth Avenue and shook hands with my Uncle David. He looked older than I remembered, but his eyes were sharp, colder than mine. "You ready to watch them fold?" he asked. "No," I said. "I'm ready to remind them I'm not the one who broke it." We sat for hours. I showed him the blueprints I had drawn up years ago for a parallel fund, a leaner, smarter, fully compliant version of the family trust. He leaned back, lips parting into a grin that didn't touch his eyes. "You built all this while working for them?" "I built it so they'd never be able to destroy what I created. I didn't expect to need it. Now I do." He nodded. "We'll fund it. I've got backers, clients who left them years ago and would crawl over glass to work with someone who knows what they're doing." I signed the papers. Just like that, the bones of something new were in motion. Not revenge, replacement. Meanwhile, the Mercers were spiraling. I know because 3 different financial advisors who once worked under me reached out. Not to gossip, to escape. "They're running blind," one told me. Logan authorized a sell-off of 2 properties below value just to stabilize cash flow. Avery's pretending everything's fine, but she just asked if we could borrow against the Arizona asset. That asset's frozen. Jules doesn't even show up to the calls anymore. I didn't smile. It wasn't funny. It was inevitable. They'd built their lives on my calculations. Now they were playing poker with someone else's cards, not realizing they were marked. Then came the email from my father. 1 sentence. "Come to the house Sunday. We need to talk." No signature, no please, no son. I almost deleted it. Instead, I replied, "I'll be there. 1 hour, no longer." The house hadn't changed. Not the gates. Not the gravel driveway that crunched under the weight of my silence. I parked where I used to when I still belonged. When the front door opened, I saw him standing there. Same navy blazer. Same guarded eyes. The same man who once told me I was his legacy insurance. "Ethan," he said, "come in." I stepped inside. It smelled like lemon polish and old tension. The others were there too. Jules in the corner, looking guilty. Avery pacing. Logan leaning against the fireplace like he thought the marble backdrop made him invincible. "We're not here to argue," my father began. "Then you shouldn't have called this a reunion," I said, "because that would imply I was ever part of it to begin with." He nodded once, like he deserved that. "We made a mistake." "You made a decision," I corrected. "Don't insult me by pretending it was an accident." Avery stepped forward. "We're in trouble, Ethan. We need you back. Just for now, until we get things steady again." "You don't need me," I said calmly. "You need the version of me that let this happen for 20 years without consequences." Logan scoffed. "You think this is about ego? We're trying to save what's left." "You're trying to undo your own choices." I turned to my father. "You signed the dismissal." "I was wrong," he said quietly. "And I'm asking you, man to man, to help us before this gets worse." "It's already worse," I said. "You just haven't read the right papers yet." Logan took a step forward, jaw clenched. "If you think starting some shadow trust behind our backs is going to make you feel better—" I raised a hand. "Stop. You don't know what I've built. You don't know what I've protected you from, and you certainly don't know what's coming." Jules finally spoke. "Then tell us." I looked at her. For a second, the ice cracked. She was the only one who ever thanked me for what I did, even when she didn't understand it. I sighed. "Your audit's coming. SEC's sniffing. There's a record of 4 unregistered transactions totaling nearly 9 figures tied to Logan's companies. You used my trust to filter them. That puts the entire structure under scrutiny. If it fails, the foundation goes. And with it, every property, every business, Every inheritance you're pretending is permanent. Silence. Real silence. I let it sit there. I could fix it, I added. But I won't. Not unless I'm back in control. Not a vote. Not a title. Control. Full. Avery shook her head. We can't. Then don't. I started for the door. My father's voice stopped me. What would it take? I turned. 3 things. 1. Dissolve the current board. 2. You publicly announce I was brought back to correct a strategic misstep. You use those words. 3. You sign control of the trust over to me. Irrevocable. That's a lot, Logan muttered. That's survival, I said. Or you can keep sinking. I won't lose sleep either way. I left without another word. That night, I booked a room at the Ocean Crest. Not to watch this time, to finish what I started. The next morning, they sent over the papers, all 3 conditions. Signed. They signed. All of them. Even Logan, though his signature was a rushed scrawl at the bottom, barely legible. The documents arrived in a sealed envelope delivered by courier. No fanfare. Just transfer of power, written in legal ink. Control of the Mercer family trust was mine again. Irrevocable. I didn't throw a party. I didn't call anyone. I sat in my living room and opened a bottle of scotch I'd been saving for 12 years. Same brand I drank on that terrace. I poured 1 glass, neat, and left the rest on the table untouched. Power isn't loud. It doesn't scream or post online. It arrives quietly. And tonight, it sat with me in silence. The next morning, I walked into the Mercer estate. This time, no one questioned it. The housekeeper nodded. The family lawyer stood when I entered the study. It's all yours again, he said. Every decision, every signature, every dollar. Where are they? I asked. Waiting upstairs. Your father wants to talk before the board meeting. They no longer have a board, I said. But I'll give him 5 minutes. I climbed the stairs slowly, as if every step was a rewind of the years I gave them. He was sitting in the old chair by the window, the same one he used to read reports in while I waited by the door with numbers he never cared to understand. You've won, he said, without turning. This was never a game, I replied. It was survival. Do you hate us? No, I said. You're just a case study now. He exhaled. You saved the trust. You saved the family. Number Y saved the assets. The family. I paused. The family chose exile. I just accepted it. He finally turned. Will you stay involved? I'm restructuring everything, quietly. The shady deals are gone. Logan's shell games are dissolved. Avery's husband has until the end of the quarter to pay back the investments or face litigation. Jules keeps her stipend. She's the only one who hasn't lied to me. You're rebuilding. I'm correcting. And us? He asked. What happens now? I looked at him. Really looked. He was smaller, not physically, spiritually, like the years of control and pride had collapsed inward. Now, I said, you watch. I left him there with that. No parting shot, no theatrical exit, just the absence he'd created echoing back at him. Over the next month, I turned the trust into a fortress. Auditable, clean, public-facing. I partnered with independent advisors, diversified the holdings, and quietly initiated investigations into every misused dollar over the past 5 years. Logan got a call from the IRS. Avery's husband filed for bankruptcy. The house in Aspen was sold without warning. Jules wrote me a letter. Handwritten. She said thank you. Said she hoped I'd find peace. I kept that one. Didn't reply. But I kept it. 1 year later, the family held another dinner. Not at Ocean Crest this time. Too many bad memories. They chose another venue. High-end, upscale, private. I got the invite. Printed. Embossed. to celebrate a new chapter of integrity and unity in the Mercer legacy. No mention of me. No mention of who made that unity possible. I didn't go, but I made a reservation. Same night, same time, at Ocean Crest, same table on the terrace, alone. I ordered the salmon, the scotch. I watched the sea like it was reading back the years to me. At the end of the meal, the waiter came over. "Will there be anything else, sir?" "Yes," I said. I handed him an envelope. "Deliver this to the Mercer party across town, with their check. Tell them it's been taken care of." He frowned. "You're paying for their dinner?" "That's right." He paused. "You did this before, didn't you?" "Yes." "Why again?" I looked at him, then past him to the glass that used to separate me from everything I'd built. "Because I can." In the envelope was a single sentence. "This is the last one. From now on, you pay for yourselves." I left a tip, walked out slow. The night was quiet. My phone buzzed 20 minutes later. Jules again. Just one line. "We saw the note. I'm sorry." I turned the phone over, screen down, drove back along the cliffs. The estate was no longer theirs. The legacy wasn't either. They'd stolen everything, and I rebuilt it in silence. If this story hit you somewhere deep, if you've ever been the forgotten one, the one who held everything together until they cut you loose, subscribe, because you know what silence sounds like when the empire collapses. It sounds like peace, and I earned every second of it.